All right, dude. Well, all right. It's working. I think we're up and running here. There we go. Chat. Tell me if you can see us. Tell me if we're alive here. We're having some technical difficulties on this side. All we want to do is talk football. All we want to do is talk football. So, chat, let me know if we're up and running here. I got my guest, Justin Boone, here, and we're going to run down the slate. So, here's what we're doing. All right, there we go. We see you guys.
Good stuff.
Now we're up and running. All right, folks. Sorry about the delay. Sorry about the issues here, but we made it. We got it done. There we go. Chat's here. We're hanging out. I got my buddy Justin Boone here, and we're going to go through the slate like we do every single week. We're going to make an FFPC lineup, but this time, folks, the stakes are high. The stakes are higher than ever because Justin Boone and I last year finished in the money in this contest. He forgot that we even did it. That's okay. We're back. We're back. We're live. Last week, Dave Kluge and I finished in the money in this contest. So this week, typically we do the $35 30-person entry. We're up in it to 100 people where you can win thousands of dollars. Justin, are you up for that challenge?
Always, man. I'm super competitive. I love doing this stuff, and I love coming on with you. Anytime we can do it. You were nice enough to do my show in the summer. I'm glad we could find a day where this works, and I'm glad we got this rocking so everybody can watch.
Yeah, I love doing your show when we do that because it's like to me you set it up for the perfect time of year. We just talk tight ends, right? And we get down to the nitty gritty. Like that is when I feel the best. And that one I got a pencil. I got that one in pen on the calendar every year. So
Yeah, how far did we get down this time? Like Colby Parkinson, we
yeah.
Lucas Kroll. I think we mentioned we were way down there.
I think Stone Smart was mentioned at one
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
So we got deep in there. But this week we're actually going to keep it at the top. We're keeping it high level here. What we're going to do, folks, for those that haven't watched the show, we're going through this week and we're pulling the top, very best matchups, the superstars that you have to start, the must-start guys, and we're grabbing the matchups that we really like that we think guys that could be wide receiver ones or RB ones that people are sleeping on. Because the way the FFPC works is you can pick any player you want, no draft, no salaries, none of that nonsense. The only rule is you can't pick two players from the same team, which I actually really like because you can't get killed by some super stack. You know what I mean? Like people go in and start Mahomes and Kelsey, and they score 3 touchdowns. You're just dead in the water. That's not a problem for us here. So we lost time already. Let's get into it, folks out there. If you have any questions for the show, definitely throw them in the chat. But just do us a little favor here. Throw them in when we're talking about that particular game. It just helps with the flow of things here. So first game here, Broncos at Buccaneers. We're not using any Broncos, are we?
No, I don't think so. The only guy I'd consider would be Javonte Williams after he had a bunch of catches last week and all the injuries on the Bucs defense. But Vita Vea was out there practice today. He's a big part of that run D. If he plays this week, then that certainly just seals it off that we wouldn't use Javonte. But overall, no, I don't really want to touch anybody in that Broncos offense for a format like this.
Exactly. In your hometown leagues or wherever you play, Javonte definitely an option, but not for something like this. Like to put in perspective, these lineups are typically the chalk, though you can differentiate a little bit. Listen to this, Boone. We lost last week by 4 points. 4 points off the lead. The team that won, they didn't even start Alvin Kamara.
Oh, wow.
They somehow started
that's incredible.
The perfect lineup without the top player. Like even their kicker, Keami Fairbairn scored like 15 points. Like it was wild, dude. But it was crazy. We had Godwin, we had Kamara. So speaking of Godwin, in this matchup here, it's kind of you pick Mike Evans, you pick Chris Godwin. Who you got this week?
Yeah, this week it's got to be Godwin. We assume that Pat Surtain's going to be on the outside dealing with Mike Evans a little bit. He's done some shadowing this year. Whether they just lock him right onto Evans, can't say for sure, but he should have to play against him a little bit more. Godwin playing 78% of his snaps from the slot last week. They said they were going to do it before the season. They've definitely done it. He's the number one fantasy receiver in PPR through 2 weeks. Great to see for him, and I'm expecting another strong game here.
Yeah, dude. I'm sitting here. I got some best ball lineups that are Kyler Murray, QB1, Chris Godwin, wide receiver 1, Alvin Kamara, RB1. I'm like, stop the count. Stop the count. Right? We know that's probably not how it's going to finish. Stop the count right now. Good point here that Devon Vele is likely coming back this week. I mean, I don't know if I would you can't use him in something like this, and it definitely hurts Greg Dulcich a little bit. But hey, I think maybe not a flex, but somebody you throw on the bench. I know Mile High Luke, you play a lot of FFPC, like these high stakes 20 round leagues. So yeah, waiver ad something like that. But outside of that, Justin, in your normal 10 or 12 team league, Devon Vele.
Dynasty stash, I got him on a few benches, but no, redraft leagues, not that excited.
For sure. All right. Next one here, we got Texans at Vikings, and oddly enough, only a 2.5 point spread. I mean, in our minds, the Texans are just like this white hot superstar team, but going into Minnesota, only 2.5 points. What do you think?
Yeah, that Brian Flores defense, it's been kind of tricky to project teams against them. Of course, we saw the Vikings beat the 49ers last week, so they can kind of go toe-to-toe with anybody on any given Sunday here. And I'm kind of scared of this game. Like, I feel like normally we'd be looking at all the stars in this one and thinking about, okay, who we're
Right.
definitely playing. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit kind of torn on who we could even use in this game. I think this might be a spot where we could differentiate a little bit. So Nico Collins, he might be a little bit banged up, missing some practice here. Maybe this is a spot to go with Tank Dell. He's 86% route participation. That's not far off of Nico Collins, even though Collins has been the one having the big performances so far. So this might be a guy that I would consider in Tank Dell. This might be a spot where he could maybe blow up a little bit and it'd be much different than some of the other lineups out there if we went with a guy like that.
Right, for sure. And that's the thing with a guy like I was worried about him coming in, but they just abandoned the fullback, right? They stopped using the fullback completely, which means hey, you can run 3 wide receivers all day long if you're not going to do that. So yeah, and again, Tank with guys like that, sometimes we say, oh, week to week consistency is a problem. For something like this FFPC lineup, I don't care about consistency at all.
Could
He
be
had
three catches for 3 long touchdowns, right? Like that's the kind of
exactly
player he's. Plus, they've been getting him some carries as well. Like they're trying to find ways to get the ball into his hands. Only a matter of time with that amount of usage. Only a matter of time before he has a big one.
right, exactly. Like last year, he had only 4 100-yard games, but when he had them, they were 150-yard games.
Exactly.
So yeah. All right. Quick. We're gonna hit some questions in the chat real quick. Do us a favor though, if you could, try and hit your questions on the games when we're talking about them. But I know people want questions answered. Trade Waddle and Mason for Rashee Rice.
Waddle and Mason for Rashee Rice. Yeah, give me Rashee Rice all the way on that one.
For sure, because Mason could be an expiring asset, and Skylar Thompson, oh boy.
Yeah.
Flex, half PPR flex, Ford Shakir or Cam Akers. I'm leaning Akers.
Ford Shakir or Cam Akers.
I mean, obviously the Akers play is only if Joe Mixon can't go.
Yeah, it seems like Akers is probably going to play this week, and I would go with him. Ford last week, they had more of a share, which we thought before the season that was going to be the case, right? That we'd see Foreman and Ford kind of both getting work. In week 1, they had a 3-way committee, but Ford was the one that had the majority of the work. So yeah, not really loving him and the matchup there. And then Shakir's just kind of, it's tough in that Bills offense. Who's going to get the targets?
Right.
So yeah, it seems like, Pierce, Mixon haven't been practicing. They're banged up. Looks like it's going to be an Akers week. I'd go with him.
If you could give me like even a 75% snap share for Shakir, then I'd feel so much better. But he's playing like 60%. It's just kind of a low upside proposition. I don't love chasing those setups.
Yeah, as much as I love my Bills, it's going to be very difficult projecting that passing game, other than the fact that you could play Josh Allen every week, trying to figure out which receiver is going to be able to come through for you and which tight end. But maybe we'll talk about Dalton Kincaid a little bit later. But it's been very, very difficult trying to figure out that pass catching core.
We'll get to it all. Chargers, speaking of barn burners here, Chargers at Steelers. Over under for this one is set at 36. So not expected to be a shootout here. Only a 1-point spread in favor of the Steelers. I mean, yikes. And these two coaches, that's what they want. That's what they want. Jim Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, they want ground and pound ball. Is there anybody here we'd consider?
Just such a slow pace. I think this is going to be the game where the Chargers come back to earth a little bit, right? Like some easy matchups in the first couple weeks. Now let's see what they can do against this Steelers defense. With Justin Herbert banged up, we think he's going to play, but he's not 100%. The only guy that I think I would really consider here is George Pickens. And I know week 1 had a pretty good game. Week 2 didn't look great in the box score, but if you go back and watch that one, had a 51-yard catch that got called back on a
Yeah.
penalty, had a touchdown that got called back on a penalty. So there was potential for a much bigger day there. We know there's nobody else in that pass catching core that's going to, take targets away from him. So Pickens any given week is a consideration for something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so interesting watching the way Patrick Surtain operates out there. Like, if he, first of all, he's very good, but if you get by him, he just grabs you, right? Like, it really makes it so tough for fantasy football if he's just going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Yeah.
just every play ends with him either breaking it up or him just like he just no matter what happens, you're not catching it. It is kind of interesting. So Pickens, I mean, tough assignment last week. I think we'll put him in consideration. Next game here, this one we got to have players from.
For
We got to
sure.
go Eagles Saints, and we're looking at a 49.5 point over under 2.5 point spread in favor of the home team, the Saints, who are one of the hottest teams in football right now. So let's start on the Saints side. You got a lot of options. You got Chris Olave, white hot Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, who's just been incredible. I mean,
all great choices. I think you got to go with the chalk here and go Kamara and
Mhm.
just keep chasing that until it doesn't work. He's going to be a focal point of that offense. And I think just, the guaranteed touches and what Clint Kubiak's been able to do with them so far and the play of the offensive line that's been so much better than we expected. I think you got to go with him. And then it's similar on the other side where like there's a bunch of guys to consider, right? And Barkley and Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts, even Dallas Goedert, I think, is somebody you could look at. Maybe not so much for this, but I think he's a guy that could have a good game this week because of the total, because they don't really have a second pass catching option there. There's no real second receiver that stepped up with A.J. Brown out last week, and we don't think A.J. Brown's going to play again. So I think I'm just going to play it safe and look at Jalen Hurts as the guy and kind of get a little piece of everything by taking Hurts in this game that we expect to be a bit of a shootout.
I love it. I'm keeping track of all of it over here. So when we circle back, we can make that call and say, okay, we'll use the QB from this team because we want to use this other guy. It's kind of a nice way to do it. And
All right.
Dallas Goedert, he somehow, no matter what, always finds a way to be exactly Dallas Goedert. I don't know what it is, man. It's like three to five catches for 30 to 60 yards, no matter what, dude. It's insane, man. There's no more Dallas Goedert player than Dallas Goedert. I want to hit this question because Steve Fagan did ask it while we were on the Broncos. I want to make sure we kind of reward those. Or actually, no, we were kind of just talking about Broncos. Whatever, we'll hit his question. So our guy Stephen Frog Fagan here wants to know 2 out of 3: Kirk, JMO, or Javonte.
Going JMO for sure. And then probably Javonte. Honestly,
Yep.
like, I don't know how you feel about Christian Kirk right now, but it's a little bit scary trusting him in your lineup after what he's done the first couple weeks. I do think he's going to bounce back at some point. Maybe it will be this week, but to put him in kind of blindly without seeing him do much this year, I'd rather take the guaranteed touches than Javonte.
Right. Like with those slot guys, and we said it time and time again that there's a difference between being a pure slot player and a player that plays a lot of slot. Like CeeDee Lamb ran the 4th most routes of any wide receiver from the slot, but he doesn't come out of the game when they go to 2 wide receiver or even 1 wide receiver sets. Some of these guys, Khalil Shakir, Greg Dortch, and honestly Christian Kirk to some degree, he's not playing the whole game. And if you got a low A dot slot guy that comes out of the game, I just don't know what the upside is, man. So,
and that Jags offense just kind of out of sorts right now, right? It hasn't looked great so far for them. They're struggling a little bit out of the gate here.
yeah, absolutely. Interesting stat here from our guy Chuck. Derek Carr, QB2 while being 31 in pass attempts. There's not been a registered murder in New Orleans in 18 days. The longest. Any correlation there, you think, Boone?
I saw that. And yeah, probably, man. I've been in New Orleans. I love the way that they get behind that team, especially when they're winning. And there's a ton of reasons to get behind them this year. So, yeah, let's say that there probably is. People are excited there.
It's all smooth jazz right now, baby. It's all jazz and beads right now. We'll see what happens after this week. All right, next game here we got Packers at Titans, and this one's going to be 38.5 point over under, not super high. And then 2 points in favor of the Titans. The Packers have just been kind of saying, without Jordan Love, we're just going to run it. And you're getting a lot of volume from Josh Jacobs, but I don't know. Can we pull anything out of here for something like this?
Jacobs is in consideration. And then I think this could be another spot where we try to like differentiate from the chalk. Tony Pollard is pretty interesting to me this week. And you look at what we thought was going to happen before the season, the way they talked about it being like interchangeable with him and Tajay Spears. Hasn't totally been that. And I know last week Spears got a little dinged up in that one. He says he's fine and going to play this week. We'll see if he's 100%. But so far, you have Pollard with 94 scrimmage yards and a touchdown in week 1. Went over 100 yards, had 5 catches last week. And then this Packers defense, they've given up over 100 rushing yards to each of the starting backs they've faced so far. So kind of an interesting spot where I think Pollard could have a pretty good game. And I talked about him as a start in my start, sit, stash, quit this week. I think he's a guy that people should be playing, and I think he's a guy that I will consider for the final
I
roster
like
here.
that. I like that because, if we're going to load up on chalk like Kamara and Godwin and these guys, we do got to differentiate somewhere.
Just a couple spots, yeah.
A couple spots, that's it. We got a question on this game. Romeo Dubs is the name from this game. Also got Cam Akers, Samaje Perine, Jalen Warren, who's been a little disappointing. It's like with Tony Pollard and Zach Moss and Najee Harris, I guess the starters are just kind of the starters so far with those teams. But we'll have to see. Warren's been banged up a little. He has got the hamstring, so maybe he'll get ramped up a little. He's got Chuba Hubbard or Yoshi. With Yoshi's tough because we don't know if Higgins is going to play or not. Do you have any recent update on that?
No, it seems like it's kind of trending towards him playing. He was back at practice yesterday. A lot of the reporters have kind of suggested, they haven't said outright that he's going to play, but they've suggested there's a good chance that he plays this week. I factor into we do believe that he's got this hamstring injury, but in this contract year, he wants to get out there, I'm sure, on Monday Night Football and make sure in prime time he's doing something. And it's just a great matchup for the Bengals, right? So I think Higgins is going to do everything he can to play in that game. For this question, probably going Akers again, and we'll wait for confirmation today to see if Pierce and Mixon are out. But I think Akers would probably edge Chuba in that one because, man, I don't want to invest in that Panthers offense, though I do think that Chuba Hubbard probably is going to be a little bit better with Andy Dalton out there and just making things competent. It's not going to be a great offense, but Andy Dalton will be checking down to a bunch. Chuba somehow last week still had like an okay performance from a yardage standpoint, despite the fact that everything was in flames around him. So, I think Akers just over Chuba would be my pick there.
I'm with you on that. And to your T. Higgins point, talk about a masterclass in contract angling. You go 0-2, lose to the Patriots, right? You skip the Chiefs game, and then show up just in time for the Washington game.
Yeah, to save Washington in prime time. Yeah,
to save the day, right, against St. Just and the boys. So yeah. Hey, you never know. A lot of conspiracy theories floating around out there. Maybe that's what's in.
Let's just hope he's healthy, man. I got him on a bunch of teams. I'd like to be playing him.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be back to good old times again if he shows up. Okay, next one here. Again, kind of some rough ones. Giants at Browns. This one is going to be a 38-point over-under, and the Browns are favored by 6.5. So they're not really giving the Giants much of a shot here. I think Malik Neighbors, I'm just going to say it. Malik Neighbors is the only name we could possibly consider.
Yeah, Neighbors for this would be the only one. It would just be the pure volume play there. Just incredible how much volume he's getting. But we knew before the season he was going to be the offense in New York, and that's how it's working out so far. For people not in a format like this, though, I will bring up again that Deonta Foreman situation where he did get 15 touches last week. Mm-hmm. I think part of that was because it was a closer game, and they're going to have some close games coming up here. The schedule gets a little bit easier, so I think this is a spot where he could potentially be like a nice little flex that he's out there in a lot of leagues still. So if you're having trouble with injuries and stuff, he's a guy that people could play in redraft. But yeah, for this format, we're not chasing him.
Yeah. And, Amari Cooper has 27 yards on 15 targets so far. So if he gets like 500 targets this year, he could have 1,000-yard season.
Oh, no.
That's just
brutal.
So, yeah, so we're going to stay away from the Browns probably both those teams, but we'll see. Next one here, we got Bears, Colts. Only a 1-point spread, so we got ourselves a game in favor of the Colts. 43.5 over under, as we've seen so far. It could be a lot worse than that. So I don't know. Anybody you want to pull out of here? Anybody to highlight?
I think DJ Moore is a bit of a squeaky wheel this week, right? Like we saw him last week on the field, just visibly frustrated. And he said that he regretted doing that, of course. But with the situation in that offense right now, with Keenan Allen still injured, with Rome Odunze not 100%, we don't think. I think that this is going to be a game where more could go off. The Colts are so beat up on defense right now, so many injuries. The volume has been there for them, and now this is going to be a matchup that could potentially help them out there. We don't want to overrate fantasy points allowed at this point in the season because it's only 2 weeks. The longer we get into the season, the more predictive that'll become. But right now, Indy giving up the 5th most fantasy points to receivers, and with all these injuries, I expect that that's probably going to continue. They like to play that up-tempo pace too, so that normally leads to a few more plays on each side. And yeah, I think more somebody we could consider, though probably in the end won't make the cut here.
Right. And people are going to be very careful with the small sample size, as you pointed out. Like, to put it in perspective, the Lions have thrown the ball 40 times per PFF. The Bills have thrown it 42 times. Not the Lions. The Saints have thrown it 40 times. The Bills have thrown it 42 times. The Lions have thrown it 84 times. So literally double what these other teams have done. It's not going to stay that way. I mean, the Lions, the first week they went into overtime, so you have to keep the game scripts in mind, so these small sample sizes with points against and all these things, you have to factor in matchups. By the time you boil it all down, you're back to the square one of who plays for this team and who plays for that team. So let's just stick with that for now.
Exactly.
On the Colts side, JT is always on the menu, Anthony Richardson on the menu, Pittman, DNP today were unknown reasons. Don't love that.
I thought I saw, maybe, was it a back issue? I saw something pop up when we were talking.
That's never good. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I think you got the right idea though. If you have Yoshi, then just wait and see if Higgins is playing, and if not, then throw Andre Yoshi-Ross in there because he's looked serviceable enough, and the possibility of having Higgins is worth
it. We got back and calf injury for Pittman, but they still expect that he's going to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not using Alec Pierce still. I can't get over how inefficient he was last year. I mean, I even added him in a league this year. I can't put him in a lineup yet. I can't do it.
Yeah, I agree. We're worth picking up and stashing still, but yeah, I don't think this is going to last for Pierce. He's going to be splitting time with AD Mitchell pretty soon here with Josh Downs coming back. Yeah, I'm probably not going with anybody in that Colts side, which before the season, that would have shocked me to say because I thought this offense would be one that we'd be attacking every single week. But Jonathan Taylor, really the only one that I would consider. And even then, you're just hoping that he's finding the end zone once or twice, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was so high on Shaheed this offseason, and then Ian Hartitz just tweeted that Shaheed and Alec Pierce have the same exact stats. I almost muted him. I almost unfollowed him. I was like, get out of here with that stuff.
Come on, we love Ian.
We do love Ian. He's gonna be on here mid October. But it's just stuff like that. It's just like, dude, come on, let us have this. So okay, next game here. This one would have been fun, but the Dolphins lost their quarterback. So now it's a 4.5 point spread in favor of the Seahawks, 41 point over under. So they're saying Seahawks going to handle business. Though I just want to throw this out there. Tua had the fastest release of any quarterback in the league. I'm not saying that he's a system QB, but what I am saying is that the system is very good and it's set up in a way that Skylar Thompson's been there for 3 years now. I don't know if it's really doom and gloom the way people might say. I mean, Tyreek Hill could take a slant in the house at any time. I kind of am interested in maybe taking the Dolphins to cover the spread, but this isn't that kind of show. We're looking for just the best matchups, highest upside play. So got to ask, Dolphins, are we doing it or no?
Devon Achane, the only guy we're going to consider here, I would say. And a big part of it is because all the catches that he's had, he's kind of been like the third receiver on top of being the starting running back. And the volume that he's gotten, like the first 2 weeks here with the injuries last week, I thought for sure we'd see other backs involved. It was mostly the Devon Achane show. To have 14 catches over the first 2 games, I don't think anybody would have projected that for him. So I think he's going to be able to get through this. I think he's still going to be a strong fantasy start. Not sure that I feel great about playing him this week and hoping for that, real ceiling game that could get us through on this one. But on the other side, Zach Charbonnet, 96% of the snaps last week. And again, they don't have that much behind him with Kenneth Walker out, but still didn't expect that Charbonnet would be like out there almost every single play. You got the Dolphins also traveling across the country, and it's Skylar Thompson, backup quarterback. We've seen Skylar Thompson play before. I don't think we're going to be surprised by him. I agree with you that a lot of these guys will still be productive for fantasy, that Mike McDaniel's going to scheme them up for sure here. And guys like Tyreek and Waddle, they can get some of these short passes and do a lot of work on their own after it. It's not like they need to be hitting on these deep balls downfield all the time to get it done. But yeah, I think
But what that
Charbonnet
means,
probably the one that I'm going
I,
to look to in this game.
I know where you're going. What you do is you leave those guys in your regular lineup, but you don't put them into this particular type of lineup because
That's
we
what I'm
want
saying,
only super mega stars. And to your point on Charbonnet, like sometimes you'll see a guy come out and you'll have a high snap percentage, but it'll be because they played like 40 snaps and he played 38 or whatever. No. They had him out there for 67 snaps. 67 snaps.
Yeah.
They literally looked at Kenny McIntosh and said, man, right? So there you go. I mean, so we'll yeah, and Kenneth Walker probably not going to play. That's what I've been seeing. Do you see the same?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be out there this week.
So we'll consider Sharbs there. It's again, if we're gonna mix it up, it'll have to be one of Sharbs or Pollard. I don't think we want to go that far that we're getting them both in there, but we'll see. Next game here, Carolina Panthers at one of the hottest teams in football, the Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, it's a little tongue in cheek there, but the Raiders are favored by 6, so maybe another one here. 40-point over under. We did have a quick question in the chat regarding this game, which was how much fab would you dump on Deontay Johnson? Let's say out of 100 if he hit the wire.
Man, not that much. Like
No.
probably like $9, something like that. Like under 10, I'm not overly excited about. Like even if he does get the volume, is he going to be a 100-yard receiver? Or is it going to look more like 6 for 48 or something like that? Right. I think it's going to be a lot closer to that. Not a lot of faith in this offense, though it might look a little bit better. Let's remind ourselves, this is Andy Dalton coming in, right? This is not like, prime Tom Brady coming in to save this offense. And Andy Dalton at his best was like an average quarterback, right? So
right. He was okay. He was exactly okay. So yeah, don't go crazy. And then another question on this game, Chuba Hubbard, P. Ryan, Javante, Zamir. I mean,
PPR a little less excited about Zamir, so I'd probably say Hubbard and Javante after we saw Javante catch the passes last week. But Zamir probably going to have a good game. If he's ever going to have a good game, I know people are down on him after the first 2 weeks, but this is a game where the Panthers, they're going to be able to run all over them. Yeah, so Zamir wouldn't shock me at all if he has a big one here, 80, 90 yards and a couple touchdowns, but I'll take the safer plays with Hubbard and Javante, I think. Just based on the catches.
It proves how annoying this like split backfield guessing game can be. This, especially the Ravens game last week was the perfect example because everybody said Derrick Henry game, don't use Justice Hill. And then they said Alexander Madison game, don't use Zamir White. And then it was flipped because, Justice Hill played more snaps than Henry because oddly the Raiders are out in front. So it's like our job is not easy, Justin.
And it's getting harder, man. There's not that many backs out there dominating their backfields these days. So I was on a show this summer and we were talking about that, how things are only going to get more difficult trying to project it because more and more teams like the Bills, like we talked about earlier, are going to this situation where they're spreading the ball around. They're not necessarily relying on 1 or 2 stars, and it's fun in real life. It creates more parity in fantasy leagues probably too. So most people probably love it, but we're pulling our hair out trying to figure this stuff out and looking at the crystal ball each week.
It's crazy, dude. I mean, on one hand, it's tough. On the other hand, I'm like, I'm sitting here. I'm like, let's see AI take my job now. Good luck with that.
Yeah, reacting to all the Friday injuries, the Monday night injuries right before the game that we find out a guy's not playing. Yeah,
exactly. If you plug in Hunter Henry into a computer, his head would explode. You'd have robot parts everywhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, good luck with that. And then for the Raiders, I'm just going to plug in onto the sheet Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers, guys we can consider, right?
Yeah, I'd be shocked if we don't go with Bowers as our leading tight ends and targets so far. It's probably going to be him in the lineup, I would think, this week.
Someone just tagged me in a clip of Rob Gronkowski on our radio show saying that Brock Bowers is already the best tight end in football.
Yeah, I think some say that he could be better than Gronk even. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go. Next one here. I mean, he's just every step of the way, he's exceeded expectations, just all the way from high school up. Uh, we had now I'm dropping the ball here. We had a scout on the show who had known him since high school, and he was like every step of the way, the hype for this guy. He's like this guy is like in the tight end world, he's like LeBron James, where every step of the way we sat here and we said, okay, this is where he doesn't beat the hype, right? And then every step of the way he's exceeded it. It's been crazy. So
Yeah, and maybe people weren't excited because they saw the pictures and everybody thought he looked like an accountant or whatever in the summer, right? Like
that picture of him standing next to Gronk when he had his hands like a praying mantis. I was like, what are you doing, dude? Somebody teach this guy how to be cool. But then you hear him talk and he has no interest in being cool. He has no interest in doing anything except being really good at football.
Exactly.
Awesome. I love that, dude. Stay out of trouble. Yeah. Brock Bowers isn't going to be getting in trouble at the club anytime soon, I don't think.
Probably not.
Probably not. All right, here we go. Big ones here. Ravens, Cowboys. Pull some players out of here. 47.5 point over under, and the spread's only 1. This is shootout potential, right?
Yeah, Lamar always a consideration. Zay Flowers, the volume that he's been getting this year has been really, really impressive. Like to see him making that jump. And the other side, probably just CeeDee Lamb that I'm looking at, right?
Just Lamb, yeah. And he's got the ankle. Ravens secondary has been so weird because I like all the players. Why are they're dead? They were let up the most yards of any team, but it's like I like Marlon Humphrey, I like Kyle Hamilton. I think Eddie Jackson's a good player. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one either. It is kind of surprising.
Eddie Jackson chalked it up to miscommunication. And I was like, no.
Okay. So just the usual, what we've all been saying about anything we're wrong about. That it's like the first couple weeks is just a preseason now. That's why all my takes are wrong, right?
First game jitters. Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Seen a lot of that in the fantasy industry in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, absolutely, dude. You have to. You have to. Okay, so we'll consider Lamb there. Next one here, 49ers Rams. I mean, this game got beat up. You know what I mean? It's like this should have been week 1. Just put these games week 1, right? Because it's like now we have to watch this one. No Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle showing up in the injury report late. No Cooper Kupp, no Puka Nacua. Yeesh. No Deebo Samuel, dude. What is happening? So I don't know, but that kind of consolidates things. Kyron Williams, maybe, but probably not.
Probably not going to the Rams side. With all the injuries in the offensive line and a tough matchup with that 49ers defense, don't think I really want to go with any Rams here. I mean, Ayuk with all the other guys potentially out here with CMC and Deebo out, and then, with Kittle kind of unsure for this one. Ayuk saying that he feels like he's in better football shape now too, which is always good, right? He didn't practice much in the summer, so hopefully starting to round back into shape here. And then Jordan Mason, always worth a consideration right now, especially in a game where you figure the 49ers are going to lean on that rushing attack and be able to control this one. So Ayuk and Mason, I guess, would be the only two that I'd pull out of here. But again, another game, like you said, that not as excited as I would have been a couple weeks ago.
Kamara and Mason might just be the good chalk. We might just have to go with those guys. Let's hit some chat here. Need some expert advice. Good thing we have Justin Boone from The Score here, a real pro's pro. So hit us with some advice here. Trade Achane and St. Brown for DK, Taylor, and Rice. So Daniel Caps wants to trade teams with someone. Which of these teams do you prefer?
Man, that's a really close trade. I think you could take either side on that one.
In trades like this, Daniel, if it's like an 8 or 10 team league, then always go for the better players, in my opinion. But in this case, I mean, I don't know.
I think I'm going Achane St. Brown.
Right.
But there'd be a lot of things that would factor in for me to make this decision. What else is on your roster, all that sort of stuff would be in consideration because it's so close. It's not an obvious one, but yeah, I love Rice, man. But yeah, I think I'm going Achane and St. Brown, especially with the way they've been using Achane, even with the quarterback downgrade there.
Right. St. Brown just got 19 targets. I will say this: if your wide receiver 3 right now is like Demarcus Robinson, and then when you do this trade, it becomes DK Metcalf, then I would do it. But besides that, take the better players. Another question here: GT Sports likely Moondog Lockett or Lad McConkey? What do you got?
Lad, as long as we got Herbert out there, I would go with Lad this week. But as we said before, that game's not overly exciting. So Mooney would be kind of close behind him, but I'll take a shot on Lad here.
Yeah,
Who would you
perfect.
go with?
I'm going with Lad as well. I still think he's the best pass catcher on that team. And Mooney Lockett has not been healthy. He's got some sort of patellar tendon issue, which I mean, you got to be very careful with that because the patellar tendon is a career killer. To be honest, I mean, like you go and look at the names of people. I mean, like Gerard Mayo probably wouldn't be the head coach of the Patriots if he didn't tear his patellar tendon and have to retire super early. Victor Cruz, Cadillac Williams, uh, David Boston, I mean, it's just a killer. So
Scary.
he's got an issue with that he's wearing like a brace for it. I don't know. That scares me. What's up, fellas? Brad T says late. Brad, don't worry, dude, because we had some technical issues here that I've never seen before. Really impressed Justin with that. And we actually talked for like 7 minutes, not live. And then we had to get rid of that stream. John and Pemba had to come in and like he's plugging stuff in and pulling wires. And then we switched it over and we got it going. So not your fault, Brad. It needs two. Alave, Godwin, Swift.
Going with the receivers.
Yes.
Godwin, like we talked about earlier, and then Olave, like a monster Olave game is coming soon if things continue like this for the Saints. And it looks like this is going to be that shootout game. I think it could happen in this one.
I posted a short today by Chris Olave. They've only thrown 40 times. The game scripts, it's honestly, Rashid Shaheed is kind of messing with the game scripts when he scores like a 60-yard touchdown because it's just, whenever you have these games with long touchdowns or defensive touchdowns or kick returns for touchdowns, you'll notice the offensive team only runs like 50 snaps,
Yeah.
right? It bleeds the offense. So they've only thrown 40 times. They're going to have to throw. It's coming.
Now, this is a pretty good spot for Swift. I will say he should come through in this one. If he doesn't, then we definitely have to sound the alarm. If he doesn't produce in this game, I would be worried about him remaining the starter in that offense moving forward. It might become even more of a committee.
And then he's going to somehow get traded to another team. And
we're all going to get excited again.
Team 7, fool me 6 times in a row, right? He'll be the Brandon Lloyd of running backs, and just people will be like, I don't know what, they just don't like him. I don't know. They keep moving him around. 10. So it is 10 teams for Daniel Cap. So yes, go with the better players in the 10-team league. We try and consolidate in formats like that.
Agreed.
Let's get back in here. And this is the one, right? This is the game. Lions Cardinals. This is got to have guys from this game. 52-point over under, which is about as high as they get. You see some, I don't know if I can really remember in recent years any 55-point over unders, but I've seen 53 or 54, but 52 is like, that's as high as they go, right?
Yeah, give me the Sun God, I think, for the Lions in this one. Like you said, just so many targets last week. As long as he's healthy enough, it seems like he would be the play for me here. There's a lot of guys you could consider on both sides, but he would certainly be the play. And then for the Cardinals, it could be Kyler, could be Marvin Harrison. I don't love Trey McBride. Like this matchup, the Lions actually have been kind of tough with tight ends, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. And Kyler, I think with Trey McBride is he's not, even going back to last year, he's not really a boom week specialist, right? He's more of like a death by 1,000 cuts type player, which we love him in PPR. Tight end 1 in PPR with a bullet kind of because the floor is there. But I don't know. He's not really a big touchdown guy. I don't know if this is obvious. It's tight end premium too, Justin. So it kind of is a format for him, but at the same time, I think we're gonna go Bowers.
I feel pretty good about Bowers. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put Kyler and MHJ in there. I mean, in tight end premium, you can put a tight end in the flex, but I only like doing that when it's like really a smash.
Yeah, I don't know that this is the week for McBride for that one.
No. Again, if it was like if Kittle was healthy, then maybe, but like Kittle's not healthy, so it's like you can't even do that. All right, next game here: Chiefs at Falcons. This one, obviously, the Chiefs are favored, but only by 3. It's on the road, 46.5 over under. What does Vegas know that we don't know here, Justin?
I'm not totally sure. I think this could still be a pretty good one fantasy wise. Mahomes and Rice for the Chiefs would be in there. Um,
I
and
like
then in the
Rice.
other side, like it's really just Bijan, isn't it? Like Drake London, not so sure about this matchup for him. And Kyle Pitts, like the matchup looks pretty good, but are you actually going to trust Kyle Pitts at this point? I don't think you can.
I in my redraft leagues, I am because I look around and I'm like, what else am I going to do?
Right. That's
There's
different. Yeah.
like last year we had guys like Laporta and Kincaid kind of sneaking out early, and you could make those pivots. Right now, there's not even pivots. There's not even like this. There's no one that's just kind of like coming out of nowhere. So we're just holding tight. We're holding tight. And then Drake London's going to see uh, some Trent McDuffie. So I mean, he and Kirk Cousins has looked pretty rough. Not
Yeah,
not
like
exciting.
London came through with the touchdown at the end last week, and shout out to him, helped me win in at least one fantasy matchup on that last touchdown there. But if it wasn't for that touchdown, we might be talking about him a little bit different right now. So yeah, don't want to look to him for this.
It's why you have to. What I like to do is comb the stats and verify by watching. Watch as much as you can because again, Drake London that late touchdown. I mean, even last night, Garrett Wilson sneaking in that touchdown at the end really fixed what was a game where he was not really featured. I mean, Tyler Conklin still led the team in yards, which
Did you see the Rodgers quotes on that, where Rodgers was saying every defense that they've faced so far has gone out of their way to try to take away Wilson?
as they should,
Yeah.
as they should. So, and again, Rodgers that's the difference between a good quarterback and a bad quarterback is that like if this were Eli Manning, Garrett Wilson would just get 15 targets and he would catch 7 of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But Rodgers is willing to move the ball around and
Yeah,
find the deep,
Rodgers suggested that they were like putting the top corner on Wilson and also sending guys over to help over the top. So yeah.
bracking them up. Yep. Okay, next one here. We got 2 Monday night games here. Jaguars at Bills, 5.5 point spread in favor of the Bills, 45.5 point over under. Let's start on the Jag side. I think that if we wanted to get cute, maybe Brian Thomas Jr., but I don't know if I really love anybody over there.
Yeah, I don't really love anybody over there. I think this game could get ugly. Like the Bills and Jags have played a bunch, and these games, at least as far as I can remember, I'm not looking at all the box scores from recent years, but I feel like every time these two teams play, it's not great for Buffalo. It ends up being just sort of low scoring, not really fun games. Maybe I'm forgetting one of them, but yeah, that leads me to not really want to play anybody on the Jag side, even though like the Bills defense, so many injuries, and yet still that Sean McDermott system is kind of continuing to come through, and that defense has been okay this year. Hopefully they can keep it up. I worry that the injuries mounting here. Eventually the house of cards is going to fall, but yeah, not really looking at that side. And then this is a spot. So Josh Allen, of course, we're going to think about Josh Allen as the guy here. But
Right.
Kincaid, I want to know what are you going to tell me about Kincaid here? Because I was so excited about him before the season.
So
I'm still holding out a little bit of hope. Last week, they get like week 1, okay, didn't have a great game. Week 2, and apparently again, kind of like the Garrett Wilson thing, some of the talk was that they were going out of their way to try to stop him. I think it actually did look like that in the
right.
week 1 film. Last week, they come out early. They're featuring him, had a couple catches. Then he gets that weird knee to the head. Then they didn't really need to throw that much. Am I just like fooling
That's
myself here?
no, that's what it is. It's the game script. Like Joe Brady, it's so crazy to see Joe Brady's because if you remember Joe Brady at LSU with it was they were chucking it all over the place, and then now they just want to run. Right? You've
Yeah.
been watching, and that's what happens with the game scripts. That's why I'm still in. You know what I mean? Because again, they've only thrown 42 times. What if what if this was flipped and it was the Lions and they threw 84 times, right? How many where's the ball going? You're going to get more Keon Coleman, you're going to get, more of everybody, really. Like
Yeah.
it's not like if they were to throw a normal amount, like middle of the pack, if they were to throw 20 more times and be somewhere in like 60, right? It's like of course Kincaid's going to get a few more of those. I think he's going to be just fine. I'm not ready to go and throw him in something like this, but I mean, because we don't have to. That's the thing. We don't have to, but he's still in my lineups, man. I'm still putting him there. I mean, he's still top 10 in route participation. He's running 73% of his routes from a wide receiver spot, which is conducive to pass catching. And it also means he's not pass blocking at all. 2.4% pass blocking As you can tell, I was looking at this morning, racking my head on all these stats.
You
I'm
knew the
like,
Bills fan was going to ask you about it. Yeah.
Even in general, I'm just wake up in the morning and I'm like, what's going on with Dalton Kincaid? I'm like brushing my teeth. I'm like, I got to figure it out. So I'm in there like looking at it. Yeah. So the numbers are fine, man. And I think the underlying numbers, the overarching numbers are not fine. This guy had 73 catches last year. He has what, 5 right now? There's no chance he only catches 40 passes this year. That's not happening. So like there has to be positive regression coming.
Yeah, maybe there'll be. I think they have the Ravens and the Texans the next 2 weeks after this week, so maybe those games will be
Right.
a little more shootout, a little more opportunity for them.
Yeah, a little more chucking. That's what I want to see. And yeah, you're right. With these Bills Jaguars games, they play all the time. And I feel like the only thing I ever remember from these games is Josh Allen sacking Josh Allen. It's like
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the exact same thing.
I'm like, what usually happens in these games?
Yeah.
You know
How
what
does
I mean?
the defensive Josh Allen seem better than the real Josh Allen right now? Yeah.
It's literally, it's like the only memorable thing from these games. It's kind of strange. Let's hit on a couple questions quick, and then we'll hit the last one, the last game here. Jerry had a trade Monty and Ridley for Marvin Harrison Jr. Is that too much?
No, I'd probably still take Harrison. I didn't love everything that we saw. I mean, he had a lot of his stats early in the game last week. Yeah. I guess they didn't really need to keep pushing it because they were in control of that one. But I would still, again, like you said earlier, I want the better player. Don't love investing in that Titans offense, even though Ridley, one of the things before the season, they'd kind of talked about like Brian Callahan maybe using him as like the Jamar Chase in that offense. And so far it looks all right. Like Ridley's been putting up some decent numbers here, but unless the side getting Montgomery really needs running back help or something, I would still go with Harrison.
Exactly. And you got to remember, we're building a team to win 3 playoff games in a row, right? Like that's the plan. So if you can move as many of these like wishy-washy guys for guys that you feel comfortable having in there every single week, then I try and do that. You know what I mean? Because like Ridley and Monty are still on a lot of my teams. The deeper leagues, obviously, you just have Monty in there, but you just have everybody in there. There's still guys where I sit there and I'm like, man, do I want to start this guy? Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr. now, after what I just saw, I'm just gonna ride. I'm riding it. I'm in.
I always think too about what can you do with that other roster spot, right? The trade isn't 2 for 1. The trade is 2 for 1, and then whatever you're picking up off the waiver wire. And this time of year, there's still a lot of guys on the waiver wire that have a ton of upside. I'm seeing some of the rookie running backs getting dropped, some of the guys that are backups on their team that could get opportunity as we go here. So consider that when you're making this trade. If you use trade calculators or anything like that too, don't just look at that one player for the 2. Think about what you're going to do with that other roster spot, and churning that roster spot early in the season can sometimes end up with a great player there too. So it's valuable.
It's huge all season long. I had somebody say to me recently, they said Trey McBride was the easy pick last year. And I was like, pick? Like a draft pick? If you draft Trey McBride, you're outside of your mind. You know what I mean? Like for the first 5 weeks, he hardly even played. You know what I mean? Like he was a pick up. That's what he was. Isaiah Likely did nothing, and then he was top 5 tight end for the last like 5 or 6 games. So always make sure you don't get too set with some of these guys, man. Like keep it moving. Keep a couple spots you can churn. So it is very valuable to have those spots. Let's see. Kittle out, Dulcich, or I can pick up Ertz, Jonnu, or Strange. Ertz is the safe play, right? Like Ertz, 3 years in a row now, he's been our yin and yang tight end, where he's very safe. Dulcich he was the upside play with Devon Vele, and now it's kind of shady.
I think I'm going Strange here. Actually, he had an okay game last week. They like to throw to the tight end in that offense. I don't think it's going to be a huge game, but I don't know that any of those guys are going to have a huge game. So for me, it would probably be between Ertz and Strange, and not looking for a ceiling game, just looking for enough to get me by.
Right. And with Strange, like Doug Peterson loves his tight end screens. He got a couple of them there. He kind of went right into the Ingram role, and he actually played. I was surprised if he played like 70% of the snaps, because usually they go in, and a guy like that, you kind of rotate him in and out. I think based on the way he performed, I could see him playing 75 or 80, So
yeah.
Ertz or Strange, if you want upside, go Strange. Dulcich, man, can't trust him as far as I can throw him. I love him. Well, I love having him on my bench, just kind of looking at him. I'm like, what if you were to do something, dude? That's what I'm saying.
One of these days.
I'm
It
looking
was
at
it was
you.
like us at the beginning when we kept trying to go live, and it was like maybe this time, and then eventually it works.
Yeah, we dropped a lot of passes out of the slot to start this show. Lad McConkey, Deontay Johnson, Whittington, or Dortch. I mean, you can't go Whittington here. As fun as that might sound.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson's the way to go, but
Yep.
again, not expecting a huge game. Just think he'll compile enough stats for you to be an okay flex or whatever spot you're going to use him in here.
Yep. The scorching hottest quarterback in football, Derek Carr or Anthony Richardson.
I feel like I could look so foolish with this, but I'm still going Richardson on
Got
this
to.
one.
You got
Yeah,
to.
I'm still
You got
going
to.
Richardson. I'm not giving up after one really bad game.
Yeah, and it's good to have both because you got a safe play. If Richardson gets it together and he's just locked in every week, moonshot, great. Derek Carr, like the beautiful thing about Derek Carr is that Taysom Hill only has played 2 quarterback snaps, and now he's got a chest injury. I still have people asking me if they should start Taysom Hill at tight end, and I'm just my answer has been the same going back forever. Like that's your decision to make. He's not,
You're throwing a Hail
he's
Mary, basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're a 34-year-old gadget fullback with a chest injury. Like, what do you want me to tell you? Like he could score 3 touchdowns this week, or he could have 0.2 points. That's what he's done going back to the start of time. So I don't know what to
I
tell you.
I do want to point out one thing with this. For anybody who started off slow, if you're 0-2 after this week, if you're 0-3 and you're trying to figure out ways to improve your roster, and sometimes your players aren't doing well, that's why your team's losing and nobody wants to make trades with you. One way that you could do it is you go out and you grab a second quarterback, because that's a spot where there's probably some guys that are starter worthy or you can stream. And then you trade a guy that has a name. If you have somebody like Richardson, you could potentially trade him. Like I have a couple teams right now. I have one team in particular where I'm 0-2. And I'm looking at the team. I have Jaden Daniels, but there's some guys on the waiver wire like Geno Smith and some of those guys that I could potentially see myself starting. I think will be, fringe QB1 types. And do I need to trade Jaden Daniels to potentially get a starter at receiver or running back? It's just something to consider, because when you go to the waiver wire, it can be tough to find starters there
Right.
at those other positions, but maybe you can kind of work things around. You trade away that, young quarterback that has a lot of hope, whether it's Daniels or Richardson or whoever. And you have to fall back on some of the streamer types. But at the same time, if you can get a good starter at one of the more premium positions, it's one thing you can consider if you're starting off slow.
Right. And I'll tell you what, I have a team, I have one of my teams is 2-0. That would be the perfect trade partner for a team like that, because I faded quarterback and I went heavy wide receiver and running back, and I have good players on my bench and I need a quarterback. So look for that team in your league, right? There's probably
Yep.
a team in your league that would look at Anthony Richardson and say, this is the last piece I need for my team. And they're willing to give you their flex player or something like that. So
I
that's
normally do a
smart.
show every year. I think I've done it for the last couple seasons, but specifically for the teams that start off like, 0-3, 0-4. Here's like the crazy moves that you can try to make to like turn your season around. And a lot of it is like sort of weird roster management stuff like
Yeah.
that. So look for that in the next couple of weeks. I'll probably do that again this year.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, next, last game here. Let's hit on it, and then we'll get this team going. So, Washington Commanders at the Bengals, 7.5-point spread, 47.5-point over under. So, this is probably the biggest spread on the slate for sure, but still high over under. So they're expecting, they're expecting some points to be scored by both teams. But on the Washington side, just probably Jaden Daniels, right?
Yeah, I think he'd probably be the only one. I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. is underrated, but I don't love him in this spot. On the Bengals side, we could go a lot of different ways here. You could almost go with anybody, right? Like Joe Burrow looked a lot better last week, potentially getting Higgins back this week. Washington just hemorrhaging points to quarterbacks,
Brutal.
to wide receivers, to everybody basically. So Jamar Chase is in consideration
I
here.
want to go Chase. I think this is
Yeah.
the right game for Chase.
Yeah, I think
It
we got
is.
other quarterback options, but yeah, Chase my wide receiver 2 on the week right now, and we'll see how that works out. If CD Lamb's injury looks a little more concerning or something, we could potentially even see Chase finish as my top quarterback in my rank, or top wide receiver in my rankings this week. But
For sure.
yeah, I like that call. I think we'll go Chase here.
Yeah, and with Jaden Daniels, I tweeted this the other day. I was like kind of going through the numbers. he actually so far this year has only attempted a pass. This is according to Pro Football Focus on 73% of his dropbacks. The only other player under 80% is Justin Fields, right? He's willing to, it's all scrambles. It's honestly, he only has one throwaway too. How crazy is that?
That
It's
is
all
pretty
scrambles
crazy.
and sacks, right? Like, so that's going to hurt Terry McLaurin and those guys unless he's willing to, start throwing it because again, this team isn't going to call more pass plays just because he's running it, right? It's just that's kind of the X number of pass plays. You look at a team like the Falcons or the Lions, and that number is 96%. You call a pass play for Jared Goff, he's throwing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think he had 17 rushing yards last season. So like some of these guys are willing to throw. Some of these guys, they're gonna sap that pass game a little bit. Hurts Eckler, hurts all those guys. All right, so let's pull this puppy up. I got all the names written down here. Let's get it so that all y'all can see what's going on here. What we're doing here, and this is the slim one, so we don't have to pick a kicker or defense here, Justin.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Last week we did, so there's a couple different ways to play over there at FFPC. Go to my FFPC, use promo code Coop. They'll give you $25 when you deposit 35 or more. And here's what we do. You can pick any players you want. No salary, no draft. Only rule is you can't pick two players from the same team. Typically, we do a $35 buy-in with 30 teams. This is a $35 buy-in with 100 teams. So there's some moolah out there. They also have some $200 ones that, you know what? I'm telling you right now, if we place in the money again this year, Justin, next year we're going up 200 if we're rocking it like that.
I like it.
All right, so here we go. Let's get in and some of the just off the top of your head here, who were some of the guys that and it's kind of a tough ask, but that we kind of were like looking at it, we're like, we're definitely going to start that guy.
I think Kamara and Mason. I
Yep.
think we felt like those guys were chalk, right? Those are
Absolutely.
I think at receiver there was a bunch of guys at the top. Chase, who we said, Amon-Ra.
Yes. Yeah, we got to get St. Brown in there.
Yeah.
So then you get into those questions where it's like we said Godwin right away, but there's so many options. I still love him.
Yeah, I still think we're going Godwin.
Yeah, and I'll put Chase in a flex spot because he plays on Monday. Jamar Chase. Okay, so that eliminates some quarterback options. So here are some other names that we had highlighted here, and I don't like. I'm gonna rule out a bunch of them right away. Like I don't know if I want to go Tank Dell with how many options we have.
Yeah, I agree now that we're looking at it here.
Yeah. So
Rashee Rice, I think probably. Don't know that I'm going to go Mahomes. I think I'd rather go Rice there. Give us another.
Yeah. Ayuk comes off the table because we're using Mason.
Right. It's one or the other.
And Devonta Adams comes off because we said we wanted to use Bowers. Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to go Bowers here. Chat, let us know if you guys think there's any smashes out there. Right? You want Jacoby Myers? No Jacoby Myers. But if you think there's any smash spots out there that we missed, let us know. We'll consider them. So, okay. So we got Bowers in there.
I think at QB, I think we go Jalen Hurts. That game, we want to get exposure to that game. We got Kamara on the one side. Hurts we know can put up a big one, and if we think the points are going to be flying on the board there, let's go with Hurts.
Takes Devonta Smith off, which is nice to not have to think about that. Then it takes all these QBs out, and it makes some of the other decisions easier. So we're going to get Rashee Rice in. So here are some of the other options we have. I don't think this is what makes it so hard because we're sitting here and we have guys like Jonathan Taylor and Bijan and A-Chain, or we can differentiate and go with like your guy Pollard or Sharms.
Do we want to just stick with one of them? I mean, we could round it off with both of them and just go crazy here.
And just look like super geniuses?
Do you
want to play that? It's a high. I mean, there's not really a lot of risk in it because we paid for our entry last year by winning. I don't know. I think we go big brain, galaxy brain play and just go for it.
Look, I mean, we could switch one of them for Bijan if we really wanted to.
Don't even want to. Don't even want to. I mean,
I like this. I kind of like this.
yeah, because we're not going to go Brian Robinson. CeeDee Lamb was limited in practice. You know, we're not going to go Flowers. Not going to go Jonathan Taylor. We don't really like that Colts game anyway. Dude, I think we got it. I think we got it here.
I like it.
Yeah,
I
now
think
I'm
that's
looking at chat, and
two
I don't
different
want chat to
spots.
throw anything else at us. I don't want chat. Don't throw anything else at. He's like, Worthy could have a big game. No, don't throw anything else. Don't confuse us now. I think we're good to rock and roll here. But yeah, thank you for staying an extra 15 minutes because we got screwed up at the beginning.
No worries. No,
yeah,
you're always generous with your time when you come on my show, man. I'm happy to do it. And yeah, don't worry about the technical issues. We all deal with that. I've told this story before on my show, but we've only ever lost one episode on my show, and it was a long time ago. We recorded in the office, and we had a producer at the time, and there was like an issue with saving it, and everyone had been saving their videos on that computer. And I guess there wasn't enough space. And I was on the other side by the mic, and I was looking at him, and I saw his face just drop.
No.
And I was like, oh no. And so I let our guest go. And yeah, we had just completely lost the episode. So our guest offered to come back, and I was like, no, man, I'm not going to make you do that. I just recorded a quick one on my own to make up for it. And yeah, fortunately, knock on some wood here. That's the only time that we've ever lost the show, but it happens to all of us.
Yeah, John and Pemba and I have lost one, and then we tried to do it again right after, and just had to do the same takes, and it
and you're just kind of bitter, and you're just
it's just bitter, and yeah, it's like the whole time we were like, if you had heard, the lost tapes.
I explained this much better the first time that we did it.
Crushed it. Yeah, so it's just impossible. But thank you, man. Let everybody know real quick where they can find your podcast. I mean, I love it, dude. I love what you're doing over there. So let everybody know where they can find you and your podcast now.
So the Score Fantasy Football Podcast, doing 4 or 5 episodes a week, depending on the week and what I can fit in right now. You can find that basically everywhere. You can also find it on The Score. You should download the Score app, not just for my content, which is all free over there. Rankings, trade value charts, waiver wire. I think I have the most in-depth waiver wire article anybody out there. I'm trying to go as deep as possible to put out that wide blanket for everybody in any type of league. All that stuff's available for free over at The Score, but there's so much great stuff at The Score, whether it's, the other sports, whether it's our box scores as well, which I think are the best in the industry. I was using those even before I worked at The Score, which now I'm on my 11th or 12th year at The Score right now, which is crazy. But yeah, all that stuff. We're also doing some stuff on YouTube now. The Score's YouTube page. No Timeouts is our new NFL show. I'm putting up a video version of my Start, Sit, Stash, Quit each week over there. So yeah, you know how it is. It's a busy time of year, and the schedule is basically broken down this time of year, like hour by hour. And if I'm ever going to add something, you got to drop something to fit time. And it's fun though, especially early in the season when we're trying to figure out, everything that's changing, trying to figure out that new landscape. I love this time of year. Talk to me in December when we're tired and the bag's under our eyes and we look like zombies. A little different at that point, but
yeah,
I'll tell you, it's still real fun.
I'll tell you the box score, man. I like many people, migrated over to The Score a couple years. It seems once a year, the purple app over there has some sort of massive meltdown, and then there's a big migration to The Score. And The Score is, I'm never going back. I just like it for looking up targets, looking up like quick box score stuff. That is a great app, and I think more people need to know about it, man.
Yeah, I was working for a different sports company years ago before I worked at The Score, and they had their own app, and people would get mad at me because they'd see me using The Score app, and it just sort of ended up working out that eventually I got the job at The Score. But yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And it's always nice on Twitter X when you see people like share screenshots of box scores and stuff. It's like, hey, that's The Score app. Right on. Everybody's using it. I like to see it.
That's right, dude. All right. Thanks, man. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging out. Hit a like. Hit a subscribe. If we didn't get to your question, drop them in the Fantasy Alarm Discord, or we have another big Start Sit show. I mean, on Sunday morning, Howard and I will be on Sirius XM 10 to 11. Call in there, or from 11 to 12, John and Pemba and I will be in here, and that will be pure Start Sits,